This will be their finest hour is a famous quote from Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister during World War II. But did you know he said this during one of the darkest periods in British history? All of us learned about World War II through the American perspective, as we live and go to school in America, but whether from Mr. Turner or Mr. Pranger. But they did not mention much about Great Britain's role, and they were a valuable ally to the United States during this time. I've always been interested in World War II, which led me to learn a great deal more about it and do research on it. Also, World War II was the topic of greatest interest through my audience survey, so I believe this topic will be of great interest to you. Great Britain held out against the Axis alone, utilized their colonies for help, and were instrumental in the Operation Overlord. First, I'll discuss how they single-handedly held off the Axis threat. Then I'll discuss how the British utilized their colonies for the war effort. And finally, how they helped perform Operation Overlord. For starters, the British held out against the Axis alone. The Axis powers consisted of Italy, Japan, and Germany. Germany gained power very quickly in the late 1930s, starting with the annexations of Austria and Czechoslovakia. The British allowed this to happen because their policy of appeasement figured they could prevent Germany from starting another world war like World War One, which was a bloody and brutal conflict for the two sides of France and Britain. However, it was quickly apparent that this would not be the case. Germany had big things in mind, and they quickly turned their sights to Poland and France. Britain could no longer appease Germany and declared war when Germany went after Poland. However, they soon found themselves alone because France, Poland, Belgium, and the Netherlands quickly capitulated to the German might. The German blitzkrieg was no match for these underprepared nations. However, the British had the advantage of an ocean between the two nations. The English Channel would prove to be the biggest battleground between Britain and Germany throughout the entire war. But Britain had no allies during this time period because the USA, which would be their ally later, was neutral and isolationist, as you learned, because of the bloody conflict of World War One. And the Soviet Union had a non-aggression pact with the Germans at the time. They even helped in the invasion of Poland. This set the stage for the Battle of Britain, which took place over the English Channel. According to Rebecca Fraser, this was the air battle over the English Channel. If Germany would have won air superiority, it would have opened the doors for a naval invasion of the British Isles and likely been the end of the Allies. However, British still had help from within their sphere of influence. Britain's colonies provided a great deal of support to the war effort. British Raj provided a lot of manpower and support. At the time, India was known as British Raj and a colony of the United Kingdom. According to Marika Sherwood, there were over 2.5 million Indian citizens in uniform during World War II. She also said the Indian war participant received over 4,000 awards for gallantry, and 31 even received the Victoria's Cross, which is the highest honor in the British military. Other colonies provided resources and military bases for the British war effort. British Malaya provided the majority of the rubber required for the British air fighters. This was a crucial colony for the British, as if without their fighters, they would have likely lost the Battle of Britain. Also, Great Britain controlled the Suez Canal and other strategic locations on mainland Africa. They also had Australia as an ally in the Far East. All this help would be needed for the operation that would help turn the tide of the war. And that operation, as you know, is Operation Overlord. Operation Overlord was a British-led operation based on the British Isles. By this time, Britain had the United States on their side and the Soviet Union, as Germany had backstabbed them. Britain, its colonies, and the United States contributed many forces to this invasion. This was the plan to invade mainland Europe and open another front against the Germans, as Stalin requested. The British Royal Navy secured the English Channel and spearheaded the successful naval invasion that is known today as D-Day. It was an impressive show of resolution and grit by the residents of the Great Britain. Altogether, without Great Britain, it is hard to tell how the outcome of World War II would have been affected. The British were able to fend off the Axis powers with the help of its colonies and fought back the Axis via Operation Overlord. Now that you're more knowledgeable on Great Britain's role during World War II, It is my hope that you will become more interested in World War II as a whole and in the other countries' contributions to the war and how they shape the political landscape today.